I didn't want to tell her about the honeymoon because I wanted to surprise her, but after she didn't speak to me for almost a week, I had half a mind to call her and just tell her why exactly I wasn't willing to spend so much money on just her wedding dress. I didn't want her to get upset because I knew she was already very stressed out about the wedding. I was about to call her after the 6th day because that was the longest we'd gone without speaking to each other, but she ended up calling me first. I'd thought that she'd called to apologize for her behavior since she was being kind of petty and childish over a wedding dress, but I was wrong. She started the call by asking me why I was being such a miser because she knew that I had a lot of money and could afford to buy her that dress. Before I could even answer her, she went on to say, "Oh, it's not like you have a husband or kids of your own, so what do you need that money for?" And I still remember that, word for word. It was a really low blow which I hadn't expected because I thought that at least she, being my sister, wouldn't say crap like that to me knowing how sensitive I was about it. I don't like it when people say things like that to me because this is a choice that I've made. I never wanted a family, and so I've remained single by choice and hadn't had kids by choice, but so many people have had so much to say about my choices that it's become somewhat of a sore spot for me. My sister knew that, and despite that, she was picking on me to trigger me, and so I ended up getting very offended. She usually reserves this side of hers for people she doesn't like and had never acted that way with me before, but I'd also never said no to her for something before. I hadn't seen this coming, so I was caught off guard by this sudden change in her attitude, all because I'd said no to a ridiculously pricey wedding gown. I told her that she couldn't speak to me like that, especially when I was the one paying for her dress, and she hit back saying that she was apparently giving me the opportunity to fill my empty life with something by letting me buy her stuff for the wedding. Then she went on to call me jealous because she was getting married and I was pushing 40 but still single. I hung up after that because it was just way too disrespectful for me to take and didn't speak to her for the next couple of days. I was very upset and had even cried over this fight because the things she'd said were mean, and I couldn't believe that the sister I'd done so much for was now saying these things to hurt me over a dress. We didn't speak after that, but I did hear from our parents who reassured me that it would all be fine but didn't want to interfere. They told me that she was mad at me, but they believed that she'd come around, and I guess so did I. I started giving up hope after around 2 months of not talking to her, and after a while when I heard that all our other relatives had received their wedding invitations but I hadn't, it hit me that she had no intention of inviting me anymore because of our fight. I took that really badly because it felt like crap that I'd always gone above and beyond for her, just to make her happy, but I was being treated like this now. In fact, even for the wedding, I was willing to go all out and sponsor the honeymoon of her dreams, which is why I wanted her to give up on the wedding dress idea. After I realized that she hadn't invited me to the wedding, I was upset for a long time, but eventually, I got over it because I could finally see my sister for what she really was. She was a complete narcissistic brat and would never be able to care for or love someone unless there was something in it for her. With that in mind, I blocked her from all my socials and haven't spoken to her for ages. But I had kept in touch with my parents, and a couple of months ago, we went out for dinner where I had a little too much champagne, and I ended up telling them the real reason I didn't agree to buy my sister the dress she wanted and how I'd intended to gift her with a Europe trip for her and her husband. After I sobered up a little, I made my parents promise that they wouldn't breathe a word of what I'd told them to my sister, but they broke that promise. My sister's wedding day was about a week ago, and on the morning of the day she was supposed to get married, she showed up at my door at around 6. I was totally unprepared and disoriented because I'd been woken up by the sound of the doorbell, and she was the last person I'd been expecting to see. We hadn't spoken for several months, so I was naturally very shocked. I didn't open the door, but I could see her through the intercom. Instead of opening the door, I decided to call her to ask why she was there all of a sudden. She answered my call and very politely and sweetly asked me to let her in, but I told her that I didn't want to see her. I knew it was humiliating for her to hear me say that, but I didn't care because, at my age, I'm not very good at taking disrespect no matter who it's coming from. She wasn't a teenager anymore and she knew her words could hurt, but she'd still said such things to me, and I had neither forgotten nor forgiven any of that. Even on the phone, she didn't apologize to me for what she said. Instead, she told me that she wanted to invite me to the wedding to make amends. I was very confused and took some time to think why exactly she would be at my door on the morning of her wedding after giving me the cold shoulder for months, and decided to ask her if she'd talked to Mom. She stupidly said yes, and I knew that our mother must have told her about what the original gift I'd intended for her was supposed to be, which is why she was suddenly here to make amends. To confirm if that was the case, I asked her very bluntly if Mom had told her anything about the gift, and after some hesitation, she admitted that she knew what I was about to surprise her with, and so she'd felt awful about her behavior, which is why she was here to invite me now. If she had just said no and said that she didn't know anything about the gift and was here because she'd realized her mistake, I probably would have let her in and reconciled with her, but she didn't have enough common sense to just lie her way out of this and told me the truth about how she was here only because of the gift I'd intended for her. Had she not found out about that from Mom, she wouldn't have been at my door to invite me to her wedding either.